Hey, we're live. Good morning. Doing this series on radical, I feel like saying, good morning, dude, radical. Well, I don't know. But how you doing this morning? I got my cup of coffee. The birds are just battle royale at the feeder this morning. It is amazing to watch. I could sit and watch them all morning long. There are about 20 birds just dive bombing each other to get those 4 spots. So one lesson we've learned from the birds is sharing is not their strong suit. They have not learned to share. And some of us have trouble with sharing too. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. We're talking about radical living, the radical life God has called us to. First, he called us to radically love one another, to love our enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. Jesus said those words recorded by Luke in chapter 6. And then he talks about our radical life, living, doing good to those around us, those who even don't do good to us, but being that person of good cheer and more than just a loving attitude, but actually doing good, going out of our way to help, living a radical life. Well, today we're talking about sharing. Again, something the birds haven't learned very well. And many times we haven't either. We seem to have a pretty tight grip on our stuff. And when I say we, I mean me. I hang on to some stuff a little tighter than I ought to. And there are things that I need to learn to let go of. And today, when we listen again to Jesus from Luke chapter 6, listen to what he has to say to us about our radical generosity. Give to everyone who begs from you, and from one who takes away your goods, do not demand it back. As you wish that others would do to you, do so to them. And if you lend to those from whom you expect to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners and get it back in the same amount. But love your enemies, do good to those, lend expecting nothing in return, and your reward will be great, and you will be sons of the Most High, for he is kind to the ungrateful and the evil. Be merciful, even as your Father is merciful. Be merciful, be kind, be generous. It's much easier to turn an attitude, to just say, I'm going to practice being more loving. I'm going to practice being more accepting. I'm going to practice. But when it comes to tangible stuff, physical stuff, it's a little more challenging. But this radical life calls us to remember the basic principle that everything we have is God's. It's been given to us for our use. It's been given to us to sustain our family, our body, and life, as Luther says, but it's also been used to advance the kingdom. That's why God gives us what he gives us. Oh, we look at people in the world and we say, well, what can my generosity do? I mean, I don't have a lot to be generous with. God doesn't call us to be generous with our lot. He calls us to be generous with what we have, right? If we don't have a lot, that's fine. Be generous with what you have. The widow's mite, she gave from her poverty, and she gave a great gift. Paul writes about the sacrificial giving of the early church. We're called to be sacrificial, radical givers. Oh, yes, you've got the Warren Buffetts of the world and the people that can give the millions and billions away. And we say, wow, now there's a generous person. But I think sometimes generosity is measured more not in what you give away, but how much you have left when you're done. It's in giving from the sum of what we have and not the excess of what we have. So today I want you to practice and think about how you can be more radically generous. We recently purchased a new camper. Our old camper was a pop-up. We had it for many years. We traveled cross country. We did big trips out west. We did small trips through the Midwest. We did a trip out to Washington, D.C. We did a lot of traveling. We've been to Michigan and back, and all kinds of different places. And now we have a new camper. Our old camper surprised people a lot when we said, if you have use of it, go ahead, use it. When we have it just sitting and nobody's using it, I felt bad about that. So we let a lot of families use it. Some of you might even be watching this. Well, I don't know if there's that many people watching this, but some of you might be that actually borrowed our camper from time to time. Well, we have a new camper, and well, I'm going to make the same offer. It's a little harder for me to do that because this one's a brand new one. Or the one, well, we bought it used. And, when we started offering it out, we had already put, 5,000 miles on it. But why not? Right? What are we hanging on to? We need to learn to hang on to stuff loosely. Speaking of loose, when it comes to loose packed coffee is the best way to brew it. Oh, here's my flavor of the day. Let me scoot over here. Here we go. Flavor of the day, Kona Blend. Probably won't find Kona Blend if you go to your local Cameron distributor because they've changed the name. The new one is Hawaiian Blend, but this is still the Kona Blend. A taste of the island today. How's that for a cheesy way to bring in coffee? Loose. Well, today, I want to challenge you to become generous. Think of a way in your community, in your congregation, in your context that you can help someone in need, a way that perhaps you've never done before, whether that's donating money to the local food shelf, whether it's donating to a special cause within your community, or just generous in a greater form. If you haven't reached that point of tithing, of giving a percentage of your giving regularly and working each year to increase that amount, go ahead and check out God and see what he does. He makes us promises in Scripture that if we will open ourselves up and give the tithe, he's going to open the storehouse of heaven and pour out on us. He reminds us in the stories and the parables he tells on stewardship that the ones who used the resources they had wisely and advanced the kingdom and grew those resources, he blessed those people with more and more. It's the stingy ones that he had problem with. So go ahead. Let's hold on a little looser, tightly to things that matter, like hot coffee and when you're sitting in a chair, but loosely to the things that don't, like our money and the stuff that we have. Let's be people of a radical generosity. Well, that concludes our series on radical. We'll be back next week as we talk about something else. If you have an idea you want us to talk about, go ahead and shoot us a suggestion. We love to hear from you. You can get a hold of me on Facebook or Twitter or whatever it is that you use to contact people. You can send me a text message, an email, smoke signals, although my smoke signal reading is not as good as it used to be, and my Morse code is really rusty these days. But get a hold of me. Let me know. We'd love to hear from you. Oh, by the way, our magic number is still 91. So go ahead and share us with a friend, and we'll see if we can reach that magic 100 subscribers. Hey, be blessed. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Hey, stop fighting. There's plenty of food for everyone. Yeah, like they'll listen to me.